Welcome to a very special episode of the City Current Show. Today we have a guest that needs little introduction, especially if you've ever hung a stocking, left out cookies, or listened for the sound of sleigh bells on a December night. He's the beacon of joy, the embodiment of the holiday spirit, and the legendary figure who makes every Christmas magical. Yes, you guessed it. Today we're sitting down with none other than Santa Claus. Let's dive into the festive stories, whimsical mysteries, and the heartwarming magic behind the jolly old man himself. Santa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure being here. How are you?
I'm great, Santa. First and foremost, how do you manage to deliver all those presents in just one night?
Oh, that's a myth. Just one night. It's really almost three. See, there's 24 time zones across the world. If I start over in the east near Russia and work west, finish in Alaska, I get almost 3 days of darkness in which to travel and do all of my deliveries. So one day that would be tough. I've got almost three.
I've never thought about that, and I don't think our listeners have either. That's pretty great. That gives you three times as much time to do all of that, and that is still a lot of present giving for 3 days.
Oh,
Describe
we can do that. One day, oh, that would be difficult.
that would be talk about what the North Pole is like. We're all curious about the magic that takes place there.
Well, everybody knows, thinks cold and white and wintry, but it's really so much more than that. It's a community of hope and love and faith, and we all work together as a family for one goal, and that's for in December to be able to provide Christmas for all the children across the world. So it is a phenomenal place to be. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
It sounds a lot like Nashville and Memphis to me, a beautiful place to be, right? And that's
I
where
do like the weather is warmer in Nashville and Memphis. Yes.
true. And that's where we are talking to you from today. Now,
Okay.
let's switch from the North Pole to some of our favorite animals of the North Pole.
Okay.
Everyone loves the reindeer, especially Rudolph. How are they, and what do they do during the off season?
Oh, they're gearing up. It's October now, and they're gearing up. They're doing, of course, they always play the reindeer games. You've heard about those. One of their favorite is hoofball. It's similar to the soccer or football there. I understand soccer's coming on strong, but they're hoofball. They have the ball, kick it around, goals. They love that. Their favorite treat, I believe, is still the lichen. They dig around under the leaves and under the moss. It's a moss type food. They love digging for the lichen. And oh gosh, they're of course they train year round. They love chewing on willow branches. But they just have a good time. I'm not as involved. We have some elves that do the wrangling for the reindeer during the season and have them ready.
You
Yes.
mentioned elves, and they play a pivotal role in Christmas preparations. Shed some light on their day to day activities leading up to the big day.
Oh, there is so much. They are so busy. They've got to, gather the woods, the plastics, the glue, the paint, the string. They're organizing, cleaning, sharpening the tools. Uh, there's so much going on with, as I mentioned, wrangling the reindeer, keeping up with them and fed. And there's so many different departments. We have the post office. We have the North Pole Flight Command. We have the wrapping department. There's just so many areas that keep them busy and prepared and keeps me busy as well.
Let's talk a little bit about the wish lists from children and how they've evolved around the years. Talk about any notable trends. I know that obviously with technology and going through the Amazon wish books and wish lists and all of that. Talk about how the wish lists from children have evolved.
It has changed. I can remember back in the time when I was asked for sticks and hula hoops, and it evolved into yo-yos, and now fruit was real common in requests because it's hard to get fruit in the winter. So I was asked for fruit quite regularly, but then it turned in more modern years to Xbox, Nintendo, and cell phones, and I'm it's sort of dropping. That's dropping off, and it's going back to simpler. Legos have always, that's been the number one requested toy ever, is Legos. Legos is still popular. Barbies, understand there's a new Hollywood movie out with Barbie. That's bringing that back, being popular again this year. So it's starting to shift away from the electronics and getting more back to toys.
That's great to hear, Santa, especially for your budget as well, because
Oh,
I can imagine cell phones, Xboxes, and just being for the elves being able to make all of those in the time period, that's very challenging. And so
it is.
for you
It
to
is.
be able to go back to maybe some of the wood carvings and templates to be able to create the plastics of the Legos and Barbie and go and do that, that makes it some more experiential things for the children to play with. So it's great to hear that they are coming back to the roots of their parents as well when it comes to some of the tried and true toys that we all grew up with and love. And
Yes.
speaking of love, I've heard that Mrs. Claus is really the unsung hero of the Christmas season. Tell us a bit about her role in the Christmas festivities.
Well, Miss Claus, she's the one who is actually in charge. Everybody from the elves, the fairies, the polar bears, the yetis, the abominable snowman, if you will, they all look to her for what to do next. She keeps them all occupied, busy, on track, on schedule, and they know not to come to Santa because all I will do is go to Mrs. Claus to get the answers. So they just kind of bypass old Santa and go straight to Miss Claus. So she's really the one in charge here at the North Pole.
That's funny because it's very similar in my household as well. So it must be.
That's wise, yes.
Talk about how you stay motivated year after year. I mean, you've been doing this for, gosh, decades and decades,
Decade, yes, yes.
decades. Ensuring every child experience is really the joy of Christmas.
It is, and really what keeps me motivated season after season and during the year, and I just think or imagine the smile on a child's face when they open up the toy or gift or surprise or item that they've desired, and it's there for them in Christmas morning, and they feel the love and the compassion, and are surrounded with loved ones, and that's really what keeps me going, is that what we do all year can help and play a role in that child's Christmas, and the smile on the face. That's the real what keeps me motivated. Look so forward to talking with the children year after year, and their enthusiasm and excitement, and I just imagine Christmas morning. I'm sure you've bought your wife or your child that special gift, and you just can't wait to give it to them and know that it's what they want and have been asking for, and you're able to provide that for them. That's my job. That's what I get to do year round, and work towards that goal, and that's how I stay motivated. The children.
But motivated by joy. That's great, Santa. Talk about a particularly touching or memorable moment from your many years of gift giving, maybe even in the Middle Tennessee area where we know you frequent throughout the holiday season.
Yes, I do. There is one in particular that always stands out. When I would come home at night, I do a lot of visiting, and from homes to sitting and having pictures made with children and asking what they want. And I'm at malls and parks and churches and just all over. And one in particular, each night I go home, my wife always asks, "Well, what happened today? What do you remember? What stands out?" There's one particular case over the years, and it was in Middle Tennessee. I was actually in Lebanon, Tennessee, and doing an event there, and talking with children, and there was a young man in a wheelchair. The family pushed them up, and he had not only the physical disabilities but had some mental disabilities as well. And he was helped from the chair up to the platform where I was sitting, and he I was using a bench at that particular event, and I thought he would sit down beside me. He was near 20 years old, not a little child, but oh no, he sat right on Santa's lap and held my face in his hands and looked me in the eye and just kept repeating, Santa, Santa, it's really you, Santa. And the tears were streaming from his face, and just that the belief and joy. And I didn't give him a thing. We haven't even spoken yet. And he was just so enthralled and excited with the opportunity to sit with me and talk with me. And that was very touching. It was real.
Well, I love that you're able to really create that special moment for him. And that is all what Santa is about and the joy of the season. And we'll get into that. But before we get into the joy and the spirit of the season, I've got to know, we know cookies and milk are a favorite treat for you. Do you have any other favorite snacks or traditions from around the world that you'd like to share with our guests today?
Oh, around the world. That's interesting. I do well on Christmas. Your cookies and milk, like you say, through the states and much of the West. But Ireland, for example, I have minced pie. That's what's commonly left for Santa there. Denmark is rice pudding. It usually has butter, sugar, cinnamon, and fruit mixed in. This one will surprise a lot of people. Japan, the most common thing left for me is fried chicken. Uh,
Oh, wow. At
Fried
least you're
chicken
getting
from
all of
Japan.
the food groups, right? That's cool.
That is it. And Sweden can round it off. I get coffee there. It helps keep me warm. So Sweden is coffee. So that's some of my favorites from around the world.
I love that it's such a diverse group of food and desserts for old Saint Nick to be able to enjoy
Yes.
on his journey across the universe. Now, as we talk about across the universe, how has technology really impacted your operations at the North Pole? Do the elves use any modern tools?
Well, they do. I use different detection units that ensure the elves are properly protected when they're working with the nanomaterials for making the electronics. For example, there's algorithms and management apps that give us the elves the opportunity to use their talents and try new kinds of work. Then we started using robots for some of the more tedious jobs and to help with more of the some of the more dangerous working conditions. And they work side by side with the elves.
I love that the elves are really at the forefront of technology and innovation as well as Santa Claus because you've been
Absolutely.
around for so long. So being able to learn and engage with new technology is fantastic.
Yes.
In a world that's constantly changing, what's your message to children and adults alike about the spirit of Christmas?
For the spirit of Christmas. I think above all is to have hope, believe and keep the joy in your heart. It said that Santa doesn't really enter through the chimney; he enters through the heart, and that is so true. We enter through the heart, so keep the hope and joy. That's what it's about.
Well said, Santa. Now, you deserve an off season as well. So when it's not Christmas time, how do you enjoy yourself?
Oh, Santa loves the beach. I love the warm water, the weather, the sunshine. I love talking with children and kind of doing research for what they're interested in, so I'll know what to stock up in for the next season at Christmas. I also love antiquing. I go to antique shops and get reminded of toys of the past and the craftsmanship and just from things from long ago. So that's some of the things I like doing in my off
I love that. That's so much fun. And I love the beach as
time.
well. So hopefully next time in the summer, if I see someone that looks like Santa, I can know that it really is Santa at the
Yes, yes, it could be.
How do you handle the increasing population and the growing number of homes to visit each year, especially in the Middle Tennessee area?
It changes, but keep in mind I stop at the homes one where there's children or there are believers. And as children mature, so many of them stop believing, and I'm not really invited or to be able to stop by their houses. But then there's new births and born and baby's first Christmas and second Christmas, and I get to participate in that. And so it ebbs and flows. There's a lot of new homes. The trend is believing longer into like the child I mentioned earlier. He was almost a man, 20 years old. So it is that is the trend again, is spiking up where I've got to stop more. But I enjoy that. Yes.
Well, I think in the world that we're living in, to be able to truly believe and hope and joy and the spirit of Christmas and all that Santa has to offer you, Mrs. Claus, the elves, and reindeer, that's what we're holding on to because we know that through hope and joy, not only through the Christmas season, but beyond. It's something that we can use as fuel in our daily lives. So we love the work that Santa Claus and your family are doing. How do you and the elves unwind us and celebrate once Christmas is over? Are there any specific traditions? I know you mentioned going to the beach. I know the elves have a lot of work that they need to do. I love that you mentioned research as well, because that's super important for Santa and his workshop to be able to know what's trending upwards and to stock up on. But are there any celebrations once Christmas is over you'd like to share with our listeners?
There are, and this may surprise a lot of people. At first, it won't make sense, but we have a cookie party. You would think after Christmas Eve, all through the West, all the different cookies that I have and receive. But one of the things that helped me deliver in that 3 nights of darkness is uh, teleportation. It's not that I am being teleported, but there's not room on the sleigh for all of the toys. So some of the things that the fairies create is different fairy dust that's used. And I have an example of that here I'm reaching for. This is some the color green fairy dust. And this is used in teleportation. And what that is used for is when I'm at the home with my bag, the toys get teleported from the North Pole to the region I'm in. So I just distribute those toys. Well, at the same time, there's so much cookies and milk that's left for me that I can't eat them all. Mrs. Claus would have a fit. So what I do, the the teleportation of the toys come to me, but the cookies and milk go return to the North Pole with this fairy dust. So when I get back, there is a party. We've got the reindeer, the Yetis, the elves, the fairies, Mrs. Claus, just all of us are together. We're eating cookies, dancing, singing, music's playing, and until we are all just totally exhausted. The cookies are gone and we fall asleep. But it's a big party that lasts hours, sometimes days. So that's what happens with much of the cookies. It's teleported back to the North Pole so that when the night's over, we have a party.
What a joyous occasion. And of course, you all are so worthy of it with the tireless efforts, days and months of advance of preparing the toys for thousands,
Ye-
millions.
Yes.
So, lastly, Santa, what's your personal message of hope and joy for our listeners this holiday season?
The most important thing about the season is love. You need to love your family, love your friends, love your neighbors, and even love the strangers. Christmas is a great time for demonstrating love, but it doesn't have to just be about the gifts. It can be about the gift of time, the gifts of your words. But take the time, and I promise, Santa assures you that someone will be glad that you did. Show love.
Well, Santa, thank you so much for showing love to me throughout the years, to our family throughout the years, to our community throughout the years, and for always being there for us, spreading hope and joy throughout the Christmas season. Santa Claus, it is a true honor and privilege to interview you for the City Current show. Thank you for powering the good both in our community and around the globe.
Oh, thank you for having me today.